What's up, guys? This is Anime Crossover. I'm back with another episode of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Sage of Six Path, part 19. And if you did enjoy this video, give this video a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions with a twist. Now let's begin this new video.
Preparation is covered in Chapter 28, Babysitting Advancements. After the event that shook the world cities, life at Ryozanpaku Dojo resumed as usual. Because of the severe training established by their insane masters, the cries of anguish and helplessness of its pupils could be heard for miles surrounding the neighborhood. It's disciple against disciple and disciple in this scenario. Yosh. Naruto chuckled as he pushed Kenichi away from him with his energized Seikuken and slammed him in the back. Then he grabbed a drop kick from Mew before spinning around once and letting go of her, which she recovered from and fell next to a panting Kenichi on the ground. Come on, fellas. I don't think you've improved at all. Naruto scowled at his younger disciple siblings and turned off his Seikuken. Let's take a short break. Kenichi was the first to speak up. No, we can continue. Naruto shrugged his shoulders as he noticed Mew's nod and the determination in both of their eyes. Okay, then. The masters sat on the outside of the dojo building, minus Shigure, who was training her own trainee, as they watched their prospective martial artists spar with one another, or in this case, train. It's a good idea for Kenichi and Mew to spar with Naruto, Kensai said, his gaze fixed on his pornographic magazine. With his master's physical abilities, he's bound to push them to their limits already. After making his move in the Shogi match against the elder, Akisame chuckled. I know, I'm just that bright. He noticed the look in the elder's eyes. The look that something troubles him immensely, such as Yami's recent activities against them. Hayato? Is there a problem? Hayato sensed the other master's gazes on him, but he is unable to speak about Naruto's ascension to godhood. Even they would not believe, let alone accept it. His disciple is still processing it, but he is gradually coming to terms with the notion that he will become a deity in the world of the supernatural. In terms of the supernatural, Naruto, the ninja, stared at him as he held Kenichi and Mew at arm's length, his hands on their heads. Don't you have something you need to get to right now? It took him a moment to grasp what he was saying, and he nodded. Oh, yes, that time has come. Time for what? Kenichi wondered after he and Mew were freed from Naruto's clutches. I'm going to get tickets for a boxing match tonight. Tonight, my friend Ippo is fighting for the belt. A title match? As a battered Medusa crawled to their location before passing out, Akisame inquired. Shigure, her master, arrived at a sedate pace before taking a seat next to the jujitsu teacher. Yeah. Takeshi Sendo is the champion he'll be meeting, and the two appear to have similar fighting styles. They've also fought in the past, with Ippo emerging victorious. Naruto began his cool-down stretches before proceeding to the gates. He didn't exert much effort during the sparring, therefore he doesn't require a shower. Until she appeared a split second later. Where exactly do you think you're going? Naruto paused in mid-step when Ria gave him a disapproving look. You understand what you must do, Naruto. Please take a shower. Before turning around to face her, the shinobi groaned loudly. However, I didn't sweat at all. Ria, hurry up. When the masters, Medusa, Kenichi, and Mew, laughed, a tick mark appeared on his head. Knock it off, says the narrator. Not even for me? A sad-faced Ria questioned. Eh? Lips curled into a pout, her pupils dilating into huge ones. Rays are any girl's ultimate weapon for pulling him and his gender. No, no, no. No puppy dog pout. Naruto exclaimed, covering his face with his fists. Please, no, perfectly please, no, I'll make you some extra ramen tonight. With extra pork. When she saw his ears perk up, she knew she had him. Now, let's take it a step farther. I'll even make you some barbecue pork ribs as a side dish. Naruto's fingers were grabbed by Rei's pout and green eyes, her hypnotic, lovely green eyes. Oh, okay, then, I'll handle it. For you. The final words were mumbled by him. She must have heard him since a sun-like smile covered her lips, making his knees weak for a brief instant. When Sakari approached the main building, he whispered to the passing ninja. Whipped. Shut it, Sakari. Naruto barked back before entering the main building, disregarding the other master's shouts. After half an hour, the Kamigawa Gym's members, particularly its prominent and rising star, member Ippo Makunoichi, have been under duress. Why should he not? It's his second shot at become Japan's boxing champion after his first defeat against the champion before Sendo, Ag date. The impending title fight between two of Japan's most promising and powerful boxers is expected to be one of, if not the, most dramatic title fights in featherweight class history. Come on, youngster. Just one more. Hi. Ippo then threw a hard left hook that sent the mitt flying aloft, causing Kamigawa to cringe in discomfort. Nice punch. When Kamigawa and Ippo looked through the door, they saw Naruto, dressed casually and wearing his usual headband, leaning against the wall next to it. Have you gained any muscle since I last saw you? Naruto. Ippo exited the ring and met his pal with a handshake. A glove shake, to be exact. Oh, right, you're here for your tickets. He dashed to his rucksack, pulled out a few little tickets, and placed them in Naruto's eager hand. I hope you'll be able to make it in time. Naruto smirked and raised his free hand to give a thumbs up. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. He put the tickets in his pockets and said, farewell, to Ippo as he prepared to go when something jogged his recollection. Oh, yeah. He turned around with a desperate expression on his face. Can I borrow some money? Get the hell out of here. Kamigawa yelled as he swung his cane at the blonde, who dodged it with ease and fled out of the gym. Hope to see you at the match, Ippo. Best wishes. Naruto jumped far into the air, higher than the surrounding buildings, before disappearing in a yellow flash to his next place after turning in the nearest alley and making sure no one was approaching. Furinji Island, Japan. Naruto gazed around the area where the home located before sitting down on the ground after appearing and recognizing his master's territory. Not like this again. Is he still down about it? He nodded as he heard the fox snort. It's already taking place, so. So, what, Ashura? Naruto responded with a stern tone. Do you think I wanted this in the first place? I can't believe it. Well, what else can you do? Kurama inquired. Not a damn thing, he groaned as he glanced up and inhaled deeply, so deeply that his chest began to bulge. As he yelled at the sky above, his chest deflated to its original size. Michael, are you visiting the island or not? A familiar golden light shone brightly even under the sun's beams, and a familiar figure reappeared. Michael stood there with a smile on his face, staring at his human, pseudo-god ally, as the light vanished as quickly as it emerged. Naruto. Nice to see you again. Naruto nodded, a smile on his face. It's good to see you, too. With outstretched arms, he gestured the surrounds. What do you think? As his supernatural visitor surveyed the clearing in the cabin that will serve as their meeting place, he stood there folding his arms. This is incredible, Naruto. I'm grateful to Elder Furinji for agreeing to this. So am I, Michael. The Archangel smiled as he looked up to the heavens, where he calls home. I appreciate it, Naruto. I'll return to heaven, but there's something else I need to do at a nearby temple. I'll see you later this evening. Wait a second. Is that it? Naruto, perplexed, inquired. That's all there is to it. Whoa. Michael came to a halt while he waited. When does the meeting begin and how long will it last? Naruto inquired cautiously, hoping that the duration did not conflict with Ippo's match. This is a treaty of friendship between the three factions. It's going to take some time. Naruto slouched his shoulders slightly, pouting somewhat. Wait a minute. Michael, did you know? Naruto, what do you know? Michael inquired, but Naruto was unconvinced. Did you know that Poseidon was going to make me a god? Would you mind repeating that? Did you about Poseidon turning me into a god? Naruto grudgingly repeated, his eye twitching in response. Oh, Michael was speechless in the face of the repeated query. You're on your way to becoming a god. That's when he had a serious epiphany. That must have been the true reason why he chose you as his successor. What genuine reason? Oh, I forgot about being an incorruptible human who never desired immortality, let alone godhood. You know. Naruto sighed and chuckled despondently. I knew a man. A really sick bastard who desired nothing more than power, immortality, and my friend's unique ability. And now, I have what he was looking for all along. Michael grimaced, seeing the turmoil in his eyes. Naruto. The strange thing is, humanity has always desired immortality, but we do not realize that we have already achieved immortality in some ways. Given that his words had piqued Michael's interest, Naruto elaborated, humanity's source of immortality is the cycle of life, the next generation. For centuries, humanity has lived with each generation. Naruto, you have an interesting point of view. Michael was amazed by his wisdom, but he can also see him straining to accept his ascent. The shinobi popped his knuckles and grumbled. How exactly does it work? What is this ascension to godhood thing? Typically, the god or goddess performs the ascension process through physical contact or through a receiver of some sort. Is there a receiver? Exactly what do you mean? Naruto inquired, his brow furrowed. I'm not sure, but it could be something personal, something Poseidon kept with him all the time, Michael explained, drawing a shocked look from the human. I think you know what it is. he grumbled as he called the trident and extended it to its full length. He gave me his weapon, and the times I used or wielded it, I felt a surge of power, but I didn't think about it until now. Naruto sealed away the golden weapon as Michael began to light, marking his departure. Naruto, all I can say is that I hope you accept it as it is because I see no human worthy of godhood than you. Michael smiled. Goodbye, and I'll see you tonight. Well, goodbye, he said as he watched the archangel fly back to heaven in a burst of gold light. He was about to depart when wooden sliding doors appeared in front of him, taking him by surprise. What the? For the first few seconds, the doors opened to reveal a vast completely white dimension with nothing in sight. Naruto took a step back as two persons emerged from the dimension and exited just before the doors vanished without a trace. You guys. Hey, there, man. It's been quite a while, Naruto. Renji Aburai and Rukia Kukichi, two Shinigami from Soul Society, stand before him. And, judging by the solemn expressions on their faces, they mean serious business. We have some good news for you about the meeting, Rukia replied gently. Naruto nodded and motioned his arm toward the cabin. Come inside and tell me about it, Rukia and Renji agreed, following him inside the cabin to see what it meant for the meeting. Tokyo, Japan. Ryozanpaku Dojo. The elder sat against the side of the dojo building, watching his granddaughter and the dojo's multi-styled successor spar. How exciting and encouraging for him to know that the Katsujinkan and styles of his dojo will live on after he and the masters pass on to the next life. He's overjoyed to learn that his second student has inherited his fighting style and will use it to fight for peace in both the natural and magical worlds. His thoughts were interrupted when he noticed a pair of eyes peering at him from his left. Ria, dear, he said, noticing a sadness in her green eyes. Is there something wrong? He motioned with his arm for her to sit next to him, which she did. Tell me exactly what's wrong. Does it have anything to do with Naruto? He received his answer when Ria moved her head away slightly. I see. What exactly did he do? Her heart was broken by the recollection of Naruto and Medusa kissing. It's complicated, Ria replied hesitantly. I can handle complicated, the elder replied with a chuckle. After taking a lick, the elder noted the subtle movements the girl was making. Her cheeks were adorned with light red lines, her fingers fidgeted as if trying but failing to fit, and a single little perspiration dripped down her temple. He recognized this particular habit since the dojo's resident disciple displayed these characteristics whenever he was near his granddaughter. I see what you mean now. Huh. You like him, Hayato said casually, chuckling at the girl's stunned expression. I actually knew about you too the moment we returned, Ryozanpaku, and he likes you as well, so what's bothering you? Instead of responding straight once, Ria sat there thinking about the kiss and then about him, who had given her so much sorrow so long ago. She gripped her left arm with her right hand, expressing her discomfort as her body began to quiver in place. Hayato put his hands on her shoulders to calm her down and halt the trembling. She eventually did as she gave Hayato a tiny nod to pull back his hands. I used to have a really bad relationship with, you know. No, I don't, Hayato replied honestly, shocking her. Your past is your past. Naruto understands that and believes that no one can talk about other people's pasts except themselves. It is okay to tell me, but if you choose not to, then I completely understand, Ria. However, I will give you this advice if you accept it. Ria considered it for a time before nodding. Don't let your past control your present. If you do, you'll miss out on something incredible that you'll regret for the rest of your life. The elder then stood up and went to the main building for a snack. Ria recalled her dreadful relationship with her neurotic late husband as she considered what he had just stated. Then she remembered the time she spent with Naruto, and she knew something. I'm happy when he's around, she said quietly to herself. The Titaness rose to her feet, a determined expression on her face. I know what I have to do, she murmured, her cheeks flushed. With that stated, Ria retired to the dojo's backwoods to unwind in the concealed bath, spa that Apachai had built years ago. Kuo Academy's Occult Research Club building, an island somewhere in Japan. Rias remarked, sitting on the couch next to Issei. Searzex ordered her sister to leave Karakura town and return to Kuo until the three factions meeting, which happened around a month ago. After witnessing the struggle between Ichigo and the Shinigami's antithesis, the Arrancar, Rias and her peerage continued their everyday school life while training to better themselves. Plus, they were outmatched by a ridiculously strong old man who disposed of three Arrancar like they were children, so there was yet another reason to train. Graphia, her sister-in-law and Gremory clanmate, nodded as she gave the latest information about the peace discussions between the three factions to Rias and her peerage. Apparently the island belongs to Naruto's martial arts master, and he just gave Michael permission, she said professionally. Any news on Naruto? Issei inquired, anxious and intrigued. That was on everyone's mind after he left Karakura town more than a month ago. The strongest queen stared at the younger man as they held hands, much to Ria's delight. It appears that Michael asked him to attend the peace talks as a representative of another faction. Everyone in the room was taken aback by this unexpected information. Which faction? Akano posed the question that everyone had on their minds. Is it the Shinigami faction? Graphia said, confounding herself and everyone else. Then, which one? From what Michael told Surzer Chs and Azazel, Mr. Uzumaki is the representative of the Greek faction, Graphia said, her eyes widening and her jaw somewhat slack. Apparently he's filling in for Poseidon, the Olympian god of the sea. Seriously? Issei inquired, receiving a nod from the lovely maid. How did that happen? Graphia elaborated as Akano served her excellent brew of tea to Rias, her friends, and herself. She stood behind the sitting Rias a minute after she finished. He was Poseidon's champion during the Wager of the Gods, which was contested by Poseidon and his two brothers, Zeus and Hades. For winning the wager, Poseidon bestowed upon Naruto the trident, the title of Poseidon, and the status of an Olympian. What? Said Issei, along with everyone else. Is Naruto really that talented to be a champion for a god? Yuto wondered, while the others were wondering the same thing. Who is this guy? They all wondered at the same time. As for the Shinigami faction, their leader has yet to respond. That stinks, Issei said. I was kinda hoping to see more Shinigami like Ichigo. Yuto spoke up once more. But we confirmed the existence of a mythical faction that has eluded researchers for centuries. That's really something. Everyone nodded, including Graphia. Your knight is correct, Lady Rias, Graphia said, just as the Gremory clan's magical circle shone brightly near the room's doors, surprising everyone. What astonished them even more was the arrival of Sirzex, Rias' older brother and one of the four underworld monarchs. Instead, they see a teary-eyed and nostrils flaring Sirzex who was seconds away from crying a river or filling the room with his tears. Gee Graphia, he yelled, leaping at her and wrapped his arms around her knees. Please don't kill me. I didn't mean to lose him. I only turned my head for a split second. Lord Sirzex, please, said the maid, pinching her husband's face and pushing him to let go of her. Her fingers were still pressing into his skin as she hoisted him. What are you talking about? He motioned for her to approach, and she did as he whispered in her ear. Everyone was stunned in a comical way, especially Rias, as they looked blankly at a frozen scared Sirzex ice cube, sitting next to a grumbling yet anxious Graphia. Scary, said the children all at once, in conjunction with Naruto Furinji Island. As he finished speaking about his latest obstacle, the shinobi simply drank his cup of water in front of his slack-jawed Shinigami friends. So Yamamoto will attend the peace talks? That's good to hear, but don't you think it's a little late? Rukia and Renji exchanged owlish blinks. Does he know when the peace talks begin? Blinking continues. If he doesn't, it'll be tonight, and he can bring bodyguards because he's the leader, Naruto replied casually as he filled his cup with a sparkling beverage dubbed Sprite, that had been served by his dispersed clone moments before. The shocked looks of his guests drilled into him as he drank the delectable liquid. More quiet and quick owl blinks. Naruto made a tick mark on his head as he dealt with the glances by smashing his lousy cup on the table, breaking it in the process. Stop staring at me like that, he exclaimed comically, his eyes blank. It's not that big of news. That jolted them awake as the dual tick marked Rukia and Renji squared off against Naruto, both sides pushing each other. Not that big of a deal? Rukia asked again. Not that big of news. How's you becoming a god is not that big of news? Renji said. Naruto rolled his eyes, thinking to himself, perhaps telling them about that wasn't one of my good ideas. Do you think? Is that right? Ashura and Kurama joked, aggravating the Jinchuriki. Renji and Rukia were already sitting in their seats, having calmed down somewhat by the time he stopped the contact. Rukia scowled, I can't believe this. With a firm nod, Renji expressed his agreement. I don't understand you two. Naruto sighed as he took a breath to calm down before speaking again calmly. This doesn't reflect on you at all since I'm the one going through the process of becoming a god. The Shinigami sighed as they looked at each other, causing Naruto to raise a curious brow. Guys? It's just. Well. Renji tried to assist Rukia but couldn't find the words. What exactly is it? We had a bet. The blonde's blank expression bore into their minds. Say what? Naruto said, his aura black, his innocent smile twitching. Under the unusually suffocating aura, the lieutenants of Divisions 5 and 11 hesitated to respond, but felt they didn't have an option. Rukia was about to spill the beans about the bet when they were spared by an enormous spiritual pressure. We're saved, Rukia and Renji said as they and Naruto walked outside. When he looked back at them with interest, there were no signs of tears. Their rescuer. A tall Shinigami dressed in a captain's coat, light brown gauntlets around his arms, matching shoulder guards, and a katana on the left side of his waist. The main physical difference between the Shinigami was the fox-like head with brown fur, yellow eyes, and 6 whiskers. Commander Komamura. The towering captain bowed to the 2 lieutenants before shifting his sight to the human in front of him, his eyes also fixed on him. Other than the Soul Society meetings, this is the first time Komamura has encountered the human who has been the talk of the Sarate, and he can see why by gauging his spiritual pressure. Just as Komamura began to feel nervous due to the blondes looking, Naruto burst out laughing. "Hey, how's it going?" Rukia and Renji both breathed a sigh of relief, raising a questioning brow. "Naruto Uzumaki, it's a pleasure to be here in the world of the living," Komamura said graciously as Naruto did the same. After a brief moment, both males emerged from the bow. "The head captain had asked me to come here to help you with the peace talks in any way I could." The shinobi raised his head before shrugging his shoulders. I'm not sure if there's anything for you to do here since I only need to put barriers around the island before tonight, but," he added, seeing the captain's displeasure, "I could show you around town until the peace talks later." The Shinigami captain nodded and said, "Very well. I haven't been to the world of the living in a long time," Naruto said, his head tilted and confused. "How come?" Renji coughed to catch his attention and gave him his response. There was never a reason to send a captain until very recently. Like Aizen and his Arrancar goons, he brought it up. "Any updates on his activities?" Rukia's little head shook in response. "It's frightening, it's as if he's waiting for something to happen." Rukia inquired about the obvious, like what? "That's the problem. Neither he nor anyone else knows what Aizen is preparing until it's put into action, and by then it'll be too late." The knights, Hiseo Mundo the former 5th Division captain fixed his gaze on the 3 weapons in front of him, each of which flashed a hideous color that paled the throne room. His ever-present smile remained as his scheme neared completion. "Lord Aizen." He barely looked up from his weapons to find Tosen outside the room. "Kokebiel is here." "Very well. Send him in." As Tosen walked away to retrieve their fallen angel ally, Aizen's hand glowed briefly before the room shook. The weapon's pedestal then proceeded to drop to the lower levels of the Las Noches tower, with several panels sealing up the opening and the room being immaculate. And just as the wicked smirking Kokebiel nonchalantly strutted inside the throne room, Tosen followed him with his hand on the hilt of his blade. "Aizen." "That's Lord Aizen to you, Lord Kokebiel," Tosen replied sharply before seeing his colleague raise his hand. Aizen lowered his hand and interlaced his arms behind his back. "Is there something very important that you've come here yourself, Kokebiel?" "Yes, I've recently learned from my various contacts that there will be peace talks between the 3 factions." A snarl escaped his mouth as his rage began to take over. "What the hell is that?" His power was ejected from his body in waves, forcing Tosen to take a step back while Aizen remained unaffected. "Are they serious with this? We can't let this happen, Aizen. We must intervene." The former Shinigami captain was deafeningly silent, because of the fallen angel's continual rage shouting that lasted nearly an hour. "And let me tell you about Azazel. He is a fool who only wishes peace. What kind of naive thinking is that? If he had not pulled back our forces during the Great War, we would have won and decimated those pesky angels and demon scum." The calm and stoic Shinigami remained silent once more, which enraged Kokebiel even more. "Hey, are you listening to me?" he finally responded. "Yes, I have," Aizen admitted before turning to face his fallen angel ally. "No." "What?" Kokebiel yelled, his hands tensed. "From what you've told me, it's of no concern to me or my plans. I didn't come to you for help. You came to me," he replied pleasantly, but his tone was tinged with murderous intent. "I will not jeopardize my plans for petty retaliation against the other factions, and your failure to obtain the coveted Excalibur fragments from the church tarnishes your abilities even further." Excalibur. The legendary holy sword of King Arthur of Camelot, produced by the biblical god, and flanked by 3 other holy swords. When Kokebiel mentioned the blade and its unfortunate demise, which resulted in the creation of the 7 Excalibur fragments, as well as his plan to steal them in order to start a war between the 3 factions, Aizen persuaded him to retrieve them for a far more painful plan than starting a squabble. Aizen was not dissatisfied when he heard that Kokebiel's once church-associated minions had been destroyed by Searzek's sister and her peerage and arrested by Heaven's forces in Kuo, and that all of the Excalibur fragments were safely stored above said home of the angels. Not quite, but certainly disappointed. "That be gone." Snarling through his bare jaw-like teeth, Kokebiel quickly turned around and grumbled curses as he exited the room. "Lord Aizen?" Tosin inquired after ensuring that he was not present. I'm not questioning your decisions, but you're aware that the Soul Society is attending the peace talks, and Yamamoto will most likely attend as well. The throne room was silent except for the stone rumbling and grinding against each other as the 3 weapons pedestal platforms ascended from the lowest level. I know, according to my sources, but regardless of their little alliance, they will be too late to do anything about it. In the late afternoon, with Naruto Tokyo, Japan. Naruto strode happily around the streets of the metropolitan metropolis after erecting many barriers around the island and a short trip through the flying Raijin Jutsu to one of his marks someplace in the city, as well as a quick tour of the portions he knows about. His tourists were following him. Very pale green tourists with swollen cheeks every 10 seconds. He's always forgetting about the negative side effects of the flying Raijin Jutsu on other people. Uzumaki. Komamura covered his lips to prevent himself or the ground from puking. He was a man with brown hair and a tiny beard that matched his fur inside his gigai. He's dressed in khakis and a yellow vest over a white-collared sleeveless shirt. Please refrain from using that technique. Rukia and Renji's groggy moans sounded like an agreement, as they were both within their gigai. They were dressed casually, unlike Komamura, with Rukia wearing a light blue sundress with purple flowers and Renji sporting a yellow t-shirt with a light reed vest and blue pants. My mistake, Naruto chuckled as he rounded the corner. That's when he was hit by something. Ouch! When Naruto and the Shinigami looked down, they saw a young boy with crimson red hair and purple eyes. He was dressed formally in crimson. Rukia slapped the blonde in the back of the head, saying, "Naruto, you idiot." "Not my fault," he muttered before assisting the boy in standing. "Sorry about that, kid." The toddler wiped his bottom before glancing up at his aide, his eyes widening with astonishment and admiration. "It's you." "Eh?" The blonde simply shrugged and moved around the guy while women and young teenage females flocked around him, the Shinigami also following him. "See you around, kid. If that ever happens," Naruto said as he and his companions entered a restaurant to feed their empty tummies. They quickly took their seats at a half-circle table near the window, Rukia with Renji and Naruto with Komamura. "I'm starving after that tour and puking. I'm ready to eat," exclaimed Renji, grabbing a menu. "Good because you're paying," Naruto said frankly, eliciting a gawk from the shocked red-haired Shinigami. "I don't have any money, and when someone says not it, it's not it." "Not it," exclaimed Rukia and Komamura. "You, Captain?" Renji exclaimed, taken aback by the older Shinigami's mastery of the human game. "The last time I was here, I spent almost my entire savings to pay the captain's tab." "Lesson learned, right?" raised Naruto's fist, which was unwillingly bumped by Komamura's. "Now what should I eat?" "There are so many good options," Renji grumbled through his teeth. "As I said, the last person to say it gets paid." "Sorry, Renji, but you lost." Renji snarled before pulling out his wallet and crying a little because of the amount of money he had on him. Jerk. Renji's tragedy made Naruto and Rukia giggle, and Komamura grinned a little. They were about to call the waitress to take their order when the boy they saw outside appeared, standing right next to the naive shinobi with appreciation in his eyes. The group, minus Komamura, freaked out when they saw the boy, drawing everyone's attention to them. "Sorry, everyone," Naruto apologized as the customers returned to their food before turning to face the boy. "Where's your mom, kid? She's probably looking for you." "Yeah, my dad and I are probably going to get in trouble for this," the child shrugged. "But I had to meet you," she said. The taller adults raised their brows as they peered at him. "Do I know you, kid?" said Naruto. The boy responded truthfully. "No, why do you ask?" Renji inquired. Rukia's lips were engraved with a tiny smirk. "It's probably his kid." "Why would you say that?" Naruto asked, his face concerned. Rukia laughed behind her hand, as Renji laughed smugly. Looking back at the boy, he groaned, "It's probably your hair. I've only seen one person with hair like yours, kid, but who?" The child beams with a big smile and nods, indicating that he understands who he's talking about. "You've met my sister before, but she's actually my cousin." "Your cousin?" Naruto said again, impatient sighs coming from inside his thoughts. "What? You really haven't realized it by now?" The Jinchuriki could hear the disappointed sigh, further perplexing him. "A certain girl and her friends arrived in Karakura town a long time ago, looking for you." Ashura provided feedback. "The night the errand car returned a second time, or perhaps this will refresh your memory. Your battle against Ria," Kurama grunted. "Oh, it's my turn. HMPH. After a little while, the ethereal shinobi took his turn, and I win. Checkmate." "What?" "No," said Kurama before roaring in the link. Naruto scratched his ears, a little frightened by the screaming. until he felt everyone's stare driven into him. He coughed and motioned for the youngster to take a seat next to Renji, who scooted to make room. As Naruto summoned the waitress and the residents placed their orders, the young boy took his seat. Naruto, Renji, Rukia, Komamura, and the youngster glanced at their orders as the waitress placed them on the table and left just as the chow down began. Naruto stared at the boy and asked the obvious question he should have asked personally as he took another piece of his excellent steak. "What's your name, by the way?" Naruto said as he finished the last of his steak. The child responded respectfully after cleaning his lips with a napkin like a gentleman. "I'm Malika's Gremory." Shatter everyone in the restaurant focused on the newcomer's table, where Naruto sat astonished, his left hand hanging in the air. "Did you just say Gremory?" Malika's nodded hesitantly as the interested eyes of the unknown Shinigami focused on him. "Oh boy," Naruto mumbled, having realized what the young kid had meant earlier about problems. Before looking at his menu, Naruto waved at the waitress. "I would like to place another order." "Alright, what do you want?" Naruto opened the full menu and pointed to everything. "All of this." "EHHHH," said everyone in the restaurant. "Las noches, Hueco Mundo basement." "It's almost time," Aizen said as the three guns in front of him flashed brighter. The spirits within the three weapons are close to awakening after weeks of voluntary sacrifices by his select few Arankar and hollows around Hueco Mundo, and they just need a little push, and there's one being who can provide it. Speaking of the aforementioned monster, he approached the chamber with his black wings flapping forth. "Have you finally come to your senses, Aizen?" Kokebiel grinned smugly before noticing the three swords on their pedestal. The cocky look quickly transformed to shock. "Where did you find those weapons?" Aizen said with a contemptuous tone. "Research. A lot of research, I'm sure you're aware of them." "Of course I know. Every faction on the planet is aware of these weapons." Aizen interjected, turning to face him. "Then I assume you know who they belong to. Their spirits are contained within the weapons, and they are about to awaken." "Really?" An nasty and smug grin carved on his lips that was nearly as broad as his pointed ears. "With them, we can easily overthrow Azazel and his followers, those pesky angels in the church, and, finally, those demons themselves. We will be the superior race." He found himself alone with the three weapons after completing his rant. When he heard the doors slamming against the floor, Kokebiel turned around to smile at Aizen. "Yes, but you won't be there, and one last thing." He hesitated just before the doors closed with a loud bang. "You're the very last course." Streams of black lights from the weapons and one brighter light from Kokebiel shone through the door cracks. If the fallen angel's cursed howls were any indication, the building rocked numerous times from the tremors of an apparent conflict inside. Aizen found his second comrade waiting for him after exiting the room and going to his royal room because the feeding would take a while. His female companion. His ally's face was engraved with a smug smile that mirrored his own moments before the throne doors slammed shut behind Aizen, leaving them to their own devices with many bat-winged people standing watch. At night, Tokyo, Japan. In the midst of the deafening cheering, Naruto yelled, cupping his hands across his mouth. "Come on, Ippo, hit him back." "This is so intense," Milikas exclaimed as he bit into his chocolate bar, courtesy of Rukia. As he and his supernatural companions watched the boxing match, he felt a surge of anxiety and excitement. However, this was no ordinary boxing match. It was the Japanese featherweight title match between the current champion, Takeshi Sendo, and Naruto's friend, Ippo Makunuchi. When Milikas learned about the event, he admitted that he had been a fan of Ippo since seeing his encounter against Alexei Volg. Imagine his surprise when Naruto told him he knew the fighter and had tickets to tonight's contest. Needless to say, he is overjoyed to be witnessing his idol compete for the belt. Milikas took a look at the arrangement of his pals' seats. Naruto sat on his right, Rukia on his left, and Komamura sat on Naruto's right, with Renji sitting on the taller Shinigami's right as well. Furthermore, he surveyed the scene, which appeared to be thousands of humans seated in square-shaped seats. The boxing arena in the center of the structure, with white spotlights shining on it, is where Ippo Makunoichi and Sen Takeshi are settling their rivalry once and for all. "Man, this is gruesome." Renji flinched as Ippo threw a stunning right hook that knocked opponent back, which was met with an uppercut to the chin. These two are just wailing into each other. Rukia nodded as Komamura spoke about the two boxers. "They're both boxers with similar strengths, speed, and durability. This match will be remembered." "Ding ding, yeah," Naruto replied, smiling as his companion and opponent sat in opposing corners to rest for the next round. Along with Ippo, pain, exhaustion, anxiety, fear. Those emotions continued to hit him like a freight train as he heavily breathed in and out to recover as much as he could for the final round. However, he, like Sendo, chose not to sit down for the next round because if one of them does, he will be unable to get up and the match will be forfeited on the spot. The next round is it, and I know Sendo is thinking the same thing, Ippo said tiredly as he stared at his opponent with one decent eye while his swollen right eye closed slowly every second. Sendo tightened his fists, which were covered in gloves. Make no mistake about where you are. I'm not going to be able to knock him out with one-shot punches, Ippo said internally, hands clenched. I'll give him my specialty, the smash. I'm down to a single weapon now, the Dempsey roll. As Ippo and Sendo emerged from their corners, the bell rang, signaling the start of the match's final round. As the smaller featherweight assumed his signature peekaboo stance, he, like everyone else outside the ring, was taken aback by this event, which the announcer, announced. Oh, my. A cross-arm block. Sendo's arms were crossed in what appeared to be the plus sign. The cross-arm block is one of the tighter blocks in boxing, and Sendo is notorious for his tremendous offense with little to no resistance. Overall, this is surprising. Seeing him approach cautiously, Ippo stepped back, his tight guard tighter than a second earlier, as he braced himself for an attack from his opponent until he felt the elastic ropes touch his back. I'm cornered. Don't rush it. Wait for the right moment, Sendo advises himself as he waits for the ideal opportunity. Ippo took a small step forward, sighing heavily. I can't hurry, but any minute now. This is all I've got, he should get started any. Ippo begins one of his characteristic boxing skills by aggressively weaving his upper body in a figure 8 as the announcer entertains the audience. Whoa, it's the Dempsey roll, says the narrator. The upper levels, the Dempsey roll? Naruto inquired, his face furrowed. He received his response from Milikas while watching the commencement action of his friend's technique. It's a boxing move developed by Jack Dempsey, the heavyweight world champion from America in the 1920s, Milikas explained matter-of-factly, drawing odd looks from his senior bosses. He chuckled uneasily as he fiddled with his fingers. I started researching Ippo's boxing moves after the Vogue match. Naruto let out a chuckle as he ruffled the boy's hair. That's fine, man. You're a fan. It happens. They returned their attention to the boxing ring, only to see Ippo's Dempsey roll broken by Sendo utilizing his shoulder to block the technique's starting action. Oh no. The ring of boxing Sendo smirked as he delivered his signature smash technique. A long uppercut, straight to Ippo's face, causing his head to flinch. Victory was now his. That is, until he became aware of a severe pain in his ribcage. Ippo's body punch connected with Sendo at the same time the smash connected with the former. Blows delivered at the same time. Sendo gasped as oxygen abruptly exited his lungs, but Ippo recovered enough to execute a powerful right punch to Sendo's face, pushing him off balance. A monster, right? Did it do the job? This is my last chance. Ippo went for the opportunity and was ready to unleash a left hook when he spotted something about Sendo's eyes. He exclaimed, his eyes, they're still alive. Sendo glided across the pavement as his right hook crept closer and closer to Ippo's half-guarded face, fixing his balance while preparing his southpaw variation of the smash. Victory is mine, Makunoichi, he exclaimed, fully extending his punch and bracing himself for hard contact with his opponent's face. Except there was no contact whatsoever. Looking down, he noticed that Ippo had managed to avoid the punch and scowled at him with his good eye. Makunoichi. Sendo. Ippo turned his feet with his body as he launched a particular body blow aimed at the liver. Then he bent down at a 90-degree angle with his left arm before jumping lightly to deliver a powerful uppercut that knocked Sendo's face upwards. Finally, he began the final and most important part of his combo by weaving his upper body in a familiar figure 8 motion before unleashing a barrage of power blows in the form of hooks from both sides. Sendo's fight was over when he was caught by the amazing quick assault, each punch striking solidly with his face. This contest began with a punch and will conclude with one. Ippo pushed himself even further, launching one more hook that sent Sendo crashing to the tarmac with a loud thud. He leaned on one of the neutral corners after being advised by the referee to do so while he pondered the true meaning of strength and whether or not he had found the answer. Time seemed to stand still until the announcer said the words he had been waiting to hear since his first title match. A new champion has been born, Ippo Makunoichi, the new featherweight champion of Japan. As fans and spectators recognized his tremendous efforts, a wave of loud cheers erupted and echoed throughout the hall. And, despite the cheers, he thought he heard his blonde friend say something. At a later date, Naruto led his party down a route that leads to a neighboring park after exiting the building and congratulating the new Japanese featherweight champion. That fight was awesome, he said, throwing his fists in the air. Especially that last combo Ippo used to win the match, Naruto said. mimicking the sequence: a left attack to the body, a lowering transitioning jump with a left uppercut, and finally weaving his upper body while throwing hooks from both sides. I think he called it the Dempsey combo or something like that. Boxing is a rather crude but interesting human sport, Komamura said, and I admit I was very surprised when your friend got up from such a heavy punch by Sendo. Rukia and Renji nodded as they followed Naruto and Milika's. Did you call your parents already? Naruto inquired, for the 15th time. The young Gremory meekly nodded. Yes, but my grandmother answered my call and she didn't sound happy. She's on her way now. Asterisk scoff, could you blame her? After all, you ran away from home. Renji replied brutally before being elbowed in the ribs by Rukia for his lack of sympathy. Ouch, Rukia said, placing her hand on Milika's shoulder. From what Naruto told us about your family being one of the 72 pillars of pure bloods, you leaving your home can cause worry in the underworld, as my brother is from one of the noble families in the Soul Society, she said. The Shinigami captain and lieutenants were astonished to learn that the youngster was an inmate of the underworld. They'd heard a lot of bad things about the underworld, and they anticipated its people to be disfigured, deceptive, and, most importantly, malevolent. However, seeing and talking with the polite Malikas, as well as learning more about his cousin and her peerage from Naruto, completely changed their perceptions of them. The peace talks will be tomorrow, Komamura reminded the others as he transitioned from his Gigai to his Shinigami spirit form after discovering a secluded, vacant park. Malikas looked in astonishment as Rukia and Renji did the same, their Gigais transforming into what appeared to be gumballs. While watching the trio stuff gumballs into their clothes, Naruto and Malikas were captivated to the sudden apparition of a spinning and blazing crimson-red magic circle with a stylized rose in the center. He placed his hand on the young boy's shoulder after hearing a worried gulp from him. Just relax, Malikas. Accept responsibility for what you did and learn from it. Naruto comforted calmly, receiving a nod from Malikas as they observed his grandmother's arrival, which astonished him. I was astounded. Rias? Naruto was taken aback by her question. Milika's grandmother resembled Rias, except she had short brown hair and wore a white, light brown clothing rather than the school uniform. Your grandmother looks like Rias, he said quietly to the boy, who nodded nervously. Milika's, cried the young Gremory, startled by his grandmother's tone. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused our family? Venelana chided as she approached her grandson, taking note of the Shinigami. They really do exist. Incredible. Her gaze was drawn to Naruto, who was standing close to Malika's. Naruto Uzumaki. He's strong, not to mention attractive now that I've seen him up close. Meanwhile, the Shinigami were thinking their own thoughts as they watched the woman come to a halt in front of a nervous Milika's, but one thing was certain. Rukia, Renji, and Komamura all said at the same time, she's powerful. It's a pleasure to meet you all, Venelana said, motioning Milika's to her side, which he did. I apologize if my grandson caused you any trouble. Not at all, Mrs. Gremory, he said, receiving a positive nod from her. In fact, we took the little guy around Tokyo for a tour and even to a festival earlier, and we had a good time. Naruto smiled, with Renji and Rukia nodding in agreement. Komamura just nodded. The lady of the Gremory household fixed her gaze on her anxious grandson. Is that true? Did you have fun with Mr. Uzumaki and the Shinigami? Malika's nodded. Well, as long as you're safe and having fun. Really? Milika's questioned, shocked, as Venelana smiled at him and kissed his brow. He then looked up at Naruto, hopeful. Naruto? Can you show it? The shinobi and Shinigami said, their heads inclined to the side in surprise. This time, Milika's inquired precisely. Your technique. The one you used in the wager of the gods against those other two. The spinning energy ball you form in your hand. Rasengan? Naruto pondered before responding, why? Milika's responded meekly. I was hoping to learn it, he said, his tone hopeful. Well, Milika's, that's a bit of a problem. It's sort of a family technique, Naruto told the little Gremory as he and Venelana stood atop a shimmering magic circle. I'm sorry, kid, he apologized as the two Gremory household members teleported back to the underworld. Soon after, the Shinigami trio said their goodbyes and headed for the Soul Society. Naruto waved at them as the Sanaki closed behind him, leaving him alone before withdrawing to the dojo via a flash of yellow light. The day after, Ryozanpaku Dojo, Tokyo, Japan. This was the day. While Naruto was putting Tenkaichi on his back, the sound of his door opening drew his attention to Ria standing in the doorway. Ria. What is it? He inquired, noticing a peculiar expression on her face. Ria? He approached her and was perplexed when she turned her head away from him. Ria, what's wrong? Why? The Titaness gave her buddy a mournful grin. What made you choose me to accompany you to the meetings? Why not? Naruto replied simply. Besides, I thought it'd be good to show the others that a Titan race member is also good with the alliance, and... Ria glanced at him with curiosity as he gripped her hand, blushes on both their faces. I'm really nervous about this, but being near you calms me down. Oh, really? Ria stroked her hair anxiously with her free hand. Yeah. They glanced at one another's eyes as if they were in a stupor. That is, until Ria posed him a question about his higher calling. How are you holding up about becoming a god? Naruto's face softened as he heard that. Sorry. Forget I mentioned it, now that I realize you're probably mad at me. Naruto arched an eyebrow as his grip on her delicate, smooth palms tightened. Mad at you? I could never be mad at you, and even if I could, I wouldn't stay mad at you for long. He sighed. I admit I was upset, and I'm still conflicted about it, but if there's one good thing about being an immortal god... He happily grinned at the blushing Ria. It would be that I would get to spend a lot more time with you. She let out a little gasp before turning around in her spot, cradling her increasingly warmed face as Naruto chuckled at her. Ria turned around after a period of quiet breathing and faced Naruto before taking a deep breath. That's good to know, but... Hey. What about Medusa? Ria asked, her eyes averted with a mournful smile. You know she likes you, and she did kiss you back in the Colosseum. Naruto's eyes widen in surprise as she continues, and at the time, I was upset for some reason. I don't know why, but I just knew that it hurt. She felt a finger touch close to her left eye, flinching slightly as Naruto pulled back his small limber to reveal a small wet tear. Naruto gently held Rei's hands with his own, savoring the warmth in them as he watched her wipe her tearful eyes. He could tell she loved it because she reddened again, just like he does. I had a feeling you might have felt this way, and I intended to talk to you about it, but everything has been so hectic lately, so here it goes. What? Ria had to inquire. Will you go out with me, Ria? Her eyes widened as she battled to find the right words. I guess you aren't ready. I'm sorry. Naruto was about to go with flying Raijin Jutsu when he realized his hands were still being held by the Titaness. Before they went up and down, his eyes met her green eyes. Is that yes? Ria smiled and nodded once more. Yes. Yes. Before she knew it, Naruto had hoisted her up and made her giggle. She gave her hand after being placed down, which was once again grabbed by his larger hand in a much tighter hold. When are we going? Hopefully tonight after the peace talks, Naruto said, drawing a smile from Ria. I know this great ramen place. After that, I'll talk to Medusa, okay. The two vanished in a yellow flash of light courtesy of the flying Raijin Jutsu. They didn't observe or notice a certain orangish red-haired girl standing outside the room with her hands curled into nervous fists. Japan, Kuo, is everyone ready? Seeing the faces of readiness, Rias looked to her sister-in-law, expecting to see concern and a little trace of wrath. Wait a minute. We'll leave in a minute, she said as she approached Graphia, who covered her prior emotion with her customary tough demeanor. Is there something wrong, Graphia? None, Lady Rias. How's Milika's doing? As little shards of ice formed around the maid, the room temperature dropped significantly. That bad? She shivered, a drop of moisture on her brow. Everyone else was shivering from the cold, save Akano, who reddened slightly. My son did something I'd told him not to do. And what's that? Rias and everyone stiffened as Graphia fixed them with a harsh and pained stare. Did you say you met Naruto Uzumaki once? Issei was the one who responded. Yeah, but he doesn't appear or act like a bad influence. He's a nice guy. Although, to be honest, we don't really know him personally. Rias, nodding at her knight, noted Graphia's opening and closing fists, which worried her. Graphia. Graphia sighed heavily. My son. He told me and his father something we would never hear in a million years. She reflected on the time she froze her husband in his anguish over the loss of their son. She may be tough at times, but she adores them. That Naruto, he had to have done something. Like what? Everyone laughed as a snowfall erupted from the strongest queen, quickly engulfing the area and muffled their calls for aid. Furinji Island, Japan Sea, take this. Nope. Crap. A high kick and a short uppercut were barely stopped by the blonde shinobi. Naruto and Ria sized each other up in their brief sparring battle before proceeding to the next round, jumping back to create distance between them. Ria charged in with her left foot, landing 2 blows to the head and stomach at the same time. They didn't land, though, since Naruto caught them with his hands before pulling on them, bringing Ria dangerously close to them. And she didn't mind, wrapping her arms around his waist while Naruto did the same. They looked into each other's eyes as if they had nothing to worry about. It was just the two of them in the island. Ria eventually broke the silence, but Naruto didn't mind because he kept staring into her eyes. This island is beautiful. It sure is, Naruto replied, still staring at her. Ria, on the other hand, understands he's talking about her since her blush deepens. So, where exactly do you want to go? Ria did nothing but shrug her shoulders. Any ideas? As long as it's in Japan, I really like this country. She placed her head on his chest slowly and hummed faintly when she heard his heartbeat. Somehow, this just feels right, she said as she felt his hands move from her waist to her head, brushing her black hair. Yeah, he agreed wholeheartedly. Naruto remembered something about Rei's fighting style after stroking her silky black hair for a few minutes. Ria? What was that last technique you tried to use on me? It wasn't Chinese Kenpo. It was karate, Yamazaki. Karate, huh? Said Naruto, amused. You're learning from Sakari now? He asked, seeing her shake her head. No? Not directly. I observe their sessions and go through the motions at night. I like it when a girl is smart. When Ria looked up and saw his eyes still on her, she couldn't help but smile. Their lips edged closer and closer, as if they were synchronized, and this time no one would interrupt them. They were completely mistaken about that. Several bright lights appeared above them, outshining the sun's own rays of light and preventing them from doing what they had wanted to do since they met. Talk about bad timing, mumbled Naruto as Ria stepped out of his arms and stood next to him. As his divine blonde counterpart descended from the sky, Naruto straightened himself out and extended his hand. Michael. Before noticing Ria, the archangel replied, Naruto. And who are you? Ria inquired of Naruto, who merely held her hand in his and nodded. Interesting. My name is Ria the Titaness, Ria stated firmly. I know. You've been living with Naruto for the past month. He extended his hand. I am Michael, the leader of the angels. Naruto approached the two after noticing the other angels landing behind their leader. This is off to a good start. Now, Michael, if you could wait inside the main room of the cabin. He got a shake of the head instead of a yes. No? I'd like to wait for Searzex and Azazel until they arrive, Michael insisted gently, earning Naruto's understanding nod. They didn't have to wait long since the Gremory clan magic circle appeared on one side of the clearing, while a brownish-green magic circle appeared on the other, and emerging from them are the alleged leaders of the three factions, who brought company. Several members of Searzex faction and Azazel appeared above their leaders in magic circles. It didn't take long for the three armies to prepare their weapons in case of an attack from either side. Talk about extreme levels of tension. Michael greeted the two commanders as they approached his spot, Searzex, Azazel. Naruto can reasonably conclude that the man in the grayish shoulder armor is Rias's older brother, and thus the one who has been hunting for him since the Wager of the Gods, based on his familiar crimson-red hair. He switched his focus to the other guy with the black hair that has a green tinge. He doesn't look like a leader, but his power screams otherwise, after briefly noting Rias and her peerage and the peculiar look the maid was giving him. Last but not least, there's the strange teenage boy who stands behind Azazel. And he's not the only one who has this thought. Michael remained mute. His power is Naruto's, but there's something else going on. Before he could speak, Naruto found himself staring at a depressed Searzex with black clouds above him. Directly in front of his face. Everyone was astonished, except for the silver-haired lad, when the horrified shinobi appeared several yards distant in a burst of speed. Don't ever get that close to me, don't you hear me? Oh, Searzex sighed, his shoulders fell with a pout. While his protege Valley was having a conversation with his partner, Azazel chuckled behind his hand. Do you feel it, Albion? Yes, he has a dark power within him that rivals my and Deedreg's power, and that's saying a lot, Albion replied, his tone tense. Be wary of him, Valley. Sure, Valley said, rolling his eyes, but he couldn't quit thinking about a fight with the blonde. Naruto Shunshine returned to his original location after calming down a little. Sorry, but you startled me for a minute there. He tried to calm him down. As a result, he chose to attend to other concerns. So, everyone's here? Naruto inquired. Are the Shinigami coming? Yeah, Naruto replied before regretfully releasing Rei's hand, but I'm wondering what's keeping them. The familiar Senkai appeared above them at a higher altitude in the air, surprising the military forces and prompting them to direct their weapons at it. They only laid down their weapons when their superiors commanded them to, only to raise them again when the atmosphere became denser and tighter than ever. The three military forces crumbled under the pressure, and the leaders, minus Naruto and Ria, began to sweat. The Shinigami faction's leader emerged from the Senkai, an elderly man dressed in black kimono with a wooden cane and an X-shaped scar on his forehead. I am Soul Society head Captain Genri Yusai Yamamoto, he announced firmly as he sank to their level as if walking downstairs. He said to his blonde ally, Naruto. He motioned with his arm to the commanders behind him, head captain. They are the leaders of the three factions. Michael of Heaven, the Archangel, bowed briefly. Searzex of the Underworld, he smiled confidently. And Azazel of the Fallen Angels. The Fallen Angel smiled and flashed a peace sign. The oldest Shinigami nodded slightly. I see, shall we then get started? While the three armed forces ascended to the skies with their weapons ready, the leaders converged. Meanwhile, Rias and everyone else were reflecting on how fortunate they were to be a part of what was to be the greatest event in history for their three races. Before we go inside, Naruto made a series of hand gestures that drew everyone's attention, including Yamamoto's. As he finished with clapped hands, a large blue translucent barrier pulsed around the island before fading into the sky. There we go. Hopefully there aren't any interruptions. The leaders and everyone else nodded as they proceeded towards the cabin, having reached an agreement. Naruto was the final person to enter the room after allowing Ria to enter before him, so he turned back and lightly shut the door. In his thoughts, he wishes for the best for everyone. Continue reading.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. If you did enjoy this part of the story, like, share and subscribe for more, and thank you all for helping support and have a great day.